Two senior law enforcement officials briefed on the investigation. His father contacted a family friend who then contacted the local sheriff's office.
FBI Director Kash Patel said the arrest happened 33 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at Utah Valley University. Utah Governor Spencer Cox says they have surveillance video showing the suspect driving onto that campus that morning. The university says he was not a student at the school. The Utah County Attorney's Office says it plans to file charges on Tuesday.
Kirk's casket is now in his home state of Arizona. Vice President J.D. Vance escorted the casket as it was flown from Utah on Air Force Two yesterday. Today, the vice president posted about the arrest on social media, saying in part, quote, "This is a big breakthrough." He added, "We took a big step this morning in getting justice for Charlie and for his family."
Memorial services for Kirk have not yet been announced, but President Trump said he plans to attend the funeral. Today, Governor Cox pleaded for the country to tone down the fiery political rhetoric.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history? Look, I mean, if you look at true political assassinations in this country of someone of this stature, this feels a lot like the late 60s. And having one so gruesomely displayed on camera in all of our hands and in all of our pockets, we are not wired as human beings biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is a cancer on our society right now. And I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. That is happening, and it's happening organically right now. I had a friend in a small city in Utah who said, we're getting together. The Republicans and Democrats in my little town are getting together to have a discussion last night, just to find a way to find their better angels. So yes, this could be. I mean, again, you have to go back to JFK to have seen a video live of something like this happening. I wasn't born until 1975, but I know that things were really dark in the late 60s. Sorry to some of you. I know some of you were there. This is our moment. Do we escalate or do we find an off ramp? And again, it's a choice. It's a choice, and every one of us gets to make that choice.
Our coverage begins with NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson in Utah. Here with us in studio, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter and NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. Steve, we'll start with you on the ground there. We learned a lot from authorities this morning. What other evidence are they revealing at this point, and what are they saying about the charges and all of this?
Yeah, Zinkler, this case really hinged on a dialogue, plea to the general public. Of course, the field office here in Utah from the FBI releasing those photos of what was then a person of interest, hoping that anybody, of course, in the general public would know anything and then bring in some tips. They got many tips we learned this morning, but what they were really focused on was anybody that might know that suspected shooter, might know that person of interest, including, of course, family members. And that is, of course, what happened. The father of Robinson contacting a family friend after seeing those photos reportedly, and then that family friend turned out to be a local minister, got in contact with the sheriff's department. Of course, that is what blew this case wide open. But of course, investigators also working with a bevy of other information, including a digital footprint, messages that were given from Robinson to friends on what's called a program called Discord, describing the weapon that was used, describing the fact that he knew where the weapon was. That was a part of it. Also, some forensics collected at the scene, a handprint, a footprint, and of course, the weapon itself being gathered as well. But I want to go back to the family. Of course, that is what the information that led to the eventual arrest, and the possibility that Robinson was maybe a bit more political in recent days. We heard from the governor on that, speaking to family members. Listen to what the governor said recently about the case.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had.
And so I want to be clear here, Tyler Robinson has yet to be charged, but we do expect charges based on a probable cause affidavit. Those may include aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice. We should learn more early next week, as early as Tuesday. Back to you guys.
Steve, thanks. Tom, there's been a lot of misinformation out there, especially on social media. You're laughing. Yeah, I mean, it's bad, right? It sort of seems like the new normal now. What are your law enforcement sources saying about that?
I mean, I think it's really one of their biggest challenges. It's a challenge when you're conducting an investigation. People put things out there that have no nexus to the truth. I mean, there was this thing going around. Could there have been a plane that took off that turned off its transponder from that area? It was the suspect on that. And
Completely false.
Completely false. And so the information flow is challenged because you have people that are then sending in those conspiracy theories to the tip lines. And of course, you can't discount anything because, you know, what would happen if you did and you missed this individual potentially. So yeah, it's a huge problem. Obviously, it's a huge problem for us as reporters in trying to determine what is real or not. Oh, by the way, there's this thing called AI that we're now contending with, which can generate images quickly, that can propagate information quickly. The governor referred to, I believe it was last night at the press conference, disinformation coming from bots from foreign countries. That's something that we see just kind of continuously. They're always operating now. This isn't the 2016 election where there's a campaign by a random office building in Moscow. This is just continual disinformation that is being sowed. And the whole idea of it is to get us to fight against ourselves and to get people upset at each other. And so that's a huge problem that exists not only for investigators, not only for reporters, but if it's confounding us, it's delaying information to you all. And of course, by the time we can actually see if something's real or not, it's traveled across the internet. And I can't tell you how many times people come to me with some fact about an investigation. I've said, you know, that's just not true, but it's established as fact already. It's a problem.
Yeah, and in light of this disinformation and new information from law enforcement, as we heard from Steve, now many people, Yamiche, are turning right to their leaders, looking for a message. We've heard from Utah's governor calling for unity. We heard from President Trump earlier today on Fox News, but his messaging and tone was a bit different. First, I want us to listen.
How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy.
So, Yamiche, simply put, what is the messaging we're getting from the president and from the White House?
It is what you just played. In talking to White House officials, the president, someone who survived 2 assassination attempts that we know of, he is someone who really sees this as a problem on the left and with Democrats. He believes that they are the ones that are violent. They are the ones that are the problem. And then you look at someone like Governor Spencer Cox of Utah, who came out the day of the shooting and really said we need as a country to be unified. And he also mentioned political issues and political attacks that have happened to Democrats. He talked about the arson that was against the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. He also talked about the shooting of Democratic politicians in Minnesota. Of course, the politician died along with her husband. So he is someone who's really trying to unify the country and say this is an American problem. It's also interesting, as Tom talks about bots, he pointed out it's other countries that are trying to make Americans hate each other. Let's remember that. President isn't doing that. And to hear Spencer Cox talk about the idea that social media is a problem, and then to go look at the social media of the president, you can just see the contrast without even really saying more than that.
We should note they're both Republicans. They're from the same party. Steve, let me go back to you because, I think this has been traumatic. This has been horribly traumatic for the family. This has been horrible for the people that live there, for the people that were at the event in that university behind you. How are people coping today? How are they reacting to this arrest?
Yeah, we should say campus closed down, of course, until next week. We have seen people who have come back, specifically students who were at the rally itself when it happened. So they watched this young man be shot. Horribly traumatic for the community here. I think I want to be careful in saying that a lot of people didn't feel necessarily a sense of danger because it was messaged pretty early on by the FBI, by local authorities, that this was, so to speak, an assassination, a person who targeted another person, not necessarily a larger threat, but you still felt the tension, of course. I spoke to one young mother who felt hesitant about bringing her daughter to school. I spoke to one young man who was in that crowd, saw what he saw, was a follower of Kirk since he was a young teenager, and is not convinced that this is going to lead to a healing moment. I think he's a little bit worried about what happens next. This larger community here, though, I think just still stunned, still shell-shocked that a shooting like this could occur on a campus like this, and starting to sort of come together and heal. As for what it says about the nation, we're just not so sure yet. Back to you.
And it is personal for folks in Utah. It's personal for many in the White House. Do we have a sense of who might be attending memorial services once they're planned? And also, we've been hearing more from lawmakers saying they're now canceling some events out of fear for their own safety, right, Yamiche?
Well, we've heard from some lawmakers who say that there's a record number, and Capitol Police have also said that there's a record number of threats against elected officials. That being said, when it comes to Charlie Kirk and his personal connection to this White House, a lot of people knew him. The president knew him. The president's son, Donald Trump Jr., said he spoke to him almost every single day for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And said that he was like a son to his dad and like a little brother to him. So you expect a lot of people from the Trump world are going to be at this funeral. The president has said that he's going to attend. I imagine the vice president, who is also very close and, of course, escorted his casket back to Arizona, he's going to attend. I would imagine the FBI director, Kash Patel, who was a close friend of him, will attend. So a lot of people from this White House, and I should tell you, I'm talking to White House officials, they were crying. They are grieving this in real time as they are still doing their jobs and thinking about Charlie Kirk.
As far as the investigation goes, Tom, just finally to close out here, the next few days you were saying are important.
Absolutely important. I mean, I think a lot of people say, oh, you found the person and they're going to be charged and it's done. A lot of questions are remaining here. Where has this person been the last couple of days? Who else has he talked to that could help out with respect to motive, that could help out with respect to the types of additional charges that you might want to bring in this investigation? And then, of course, there's the real backward-looking stuff, which is what are on the phones and the computers to the extent that he has those, because that's really going to speak to the types